the ground beneath your feet is not the ground. That is the first thing you need to understand. Look at any photograph of San Francisco from 1860. See those arches at street level. Find those same buildings today. The arches are underground. The doorways are basements. The windows that once let in light now open into storage rooms. Something buried them. Two explanations exists. One, a catastrophic global mud flood swallowed entire cities in the 1800s. Survivors were built on top, paved over the old world, pretended it never existed. 2. Time. Decades of repaving, settling debris, rapid urban growth. Same photograph, same evidence, completely different stories. Now look at a map, any map from before 1800. There is a name written across the top of Asia you will not find in any modern textbook. Tartaria. Dutch maps, French maps, English maps. For 300 years, every cartographer in Europe drew it. Then sometime in the 19th century, it vanished from every map on earth. What was it? One answer, a global empire, a civilization stretching from Siberia to North America. So advanced its buildings still stand, mislabeled as 19th century construction. So thoroughly erased that only the maps remember. Another answer, a placeholder, a word Europeans used for places they had never been. Not an empire, not a country, a blank space on a map labeled, "Here be nomads." Two answers, same maps, completely different stories. Here is what I know. The maps exist, the photographs exist, the documents exist. You can find every one of these yourself. You can hold them. You can feel that something is here. And the people who built entire belief system around this evidence, they are not stupid. They looked at the same things you are looking at right now. They just stopped at a different question. The question I keep asking is different. Not what does this prove, but what are they actually seeing? That is what this investigation is about. Not a debunking, an investigation. By the end, you will know that Tartary actually was. You will know what was genuinely raised and by whom. And you will understand why the real answer is far darker than any conspiracy. Start with the maps. There is a map from 1636 made by cartographer named Hondius. It is beautiful, the kind of thing kings framed and hung in throne rooms, right there, stretching from the Caspian Sea to the Pacific Ocean. One word in capital letters, Tartaria. Believers look at this and see an empire, a sovereign state, a political entity history forgot. You can understand why. The name is prominent. It is on every map for 3 centuries. If it was not real, why did they keep drawing it? Here is what the map actually shows. Look closer. See those lines across Europe. France separated from Germany, Spain from Portugal. Clean, deliberate borders. Now look at Tartaria. No borders, no boundaries, no dividing lines at all. Just a name floating in empty space. That is not how you draw a country. That is how you draw a question mark. In the 17th century, European cartographers had a problem. They knew Asia existed. Marco Polo, Silk Road traders, travelers returning with tales of endless grasslands. But they had not mapped it. They did not know where one group ended and another began. So they did what map makers always do when they do not know something. They gave it a name and moved on. Tartaria, from the word Tatar, a broad label for the nomadic peoples of Inner Eurasia. Not one group, dozens. Different languages, different leaders, different ways of living entirely. Europeans collapsed them the way old maps collapsed all of West Africa into Guinea. Not because those places were unified, because the map maker did not know the difference. But here is where it gets harder to dismiss. In 1757, a French cartographer produced the Carte de Tartary, held today in the Library of Congress. Believers cite this map constantly as a proof of a unified empire. So I looked at it, really looked at it. The map does not show one Tartaria, it shows several. Chinese Tartary, Russian, independent Tartary. Different zones, different powers, different rulers. If this was one empire, why does its own map divide it among competing foreign powers? That is not what a unified civilization looks like on a map. That is what unknown territory looks like. when three empires are fighting over the same blank space. Now watch what happens across time. The 1602 map, vast, undefined, borderless. The 1673 map, still there, still shapeless. The 1757 map, fractured into competing zones. The 1817 map, shrinking. By 1822, Siberia, Mongolia, Manchuria emerged from the blank space. Tartaria does not vanish because an empire was destroyed. Tartaria vanished because Europeans finally learned what was actually there. And here is what they found. Not ruins of one collapsed civilization, dozens of living ones. The Tatars, the Buryats, the Kalmyks, peoples with their own language, their own architecture, their own histories stretching back centuries. And something did happen to those peoples. Something documented, something deliberate, something that should make you angry. But it was not a mud flood. Believers have more than maps. They have photographs. Photographs hit differently than maps. You do not analyze a photograph, you feel it. Find the photograph of Sacramento from the 1860s. A street lined with grand buildings, at the base of each one, an arch disappearing into the ground. The keystone, the very top of the arch, sits at sidewalk level. The rest is below, swallowed. It looks like the earth is consuming them. Now find that same street today. The arches are not demolished, not removed, just underground. Basement windows, storage space. The city rose. The buildings stayed where they were. Believers see this and see the before. The world before the flood, the moment right after catastrophe. When survivors had not yet paved over the old ground, they call these buried cities, they call them proof. Here is what the photographs actually show. Every major city on earth does this. Not from catastrophe, from time to time. Streets get repaved, rubble gets packed down, new constructions raises the grade incrementally. In Rome, excavated streets sit 15 feet below the modern surface, not from a flood, from 2000 years of people living in the same place. San Francisco in the 1860s was not recovering from catastrophe. It was growing faster than any city in history. Buildings went up before streets could be graded. Here is the question believers never ask. If a civilization ending flood buried these buildings, why are the buildings intact? Flood destroy, they do not preserve. Now the structure believers point to most. In 1885, an Australian newspaper called The Age published a detailed construction report. It was named the architect of building believers now called Tartarian. It listed the materials, the timeline, the client. That building was not inherited from a lost civilization. It was built in 1885. We know because someone wrote it down in a newspaper that survived, that anyone can read right now. But believers have one more weapon, and this one is harder to laugh off. The star forts, geometric, precise, almost alien in their symmetry from above. How believers ask, could 19th century humans build this without advanced technology? The answer is two words: tres, Italian, a standardized military design that emerged in 15th century Italy. It spread across every major empire on earth, not because one civilization shared the blueprint, because every military engineer faced the same problem: cannons. The angular star shape deflects cannon fire. Every empire independently adopted it. Different continents, different cultures, same physics. And then there is a problem that should disturb you most. Right now this week, YouTube channels with millions of subscribers are running ordinary 19th century photographs through AI enhancement software. The result looks ancient, impossibly detailed, almost supernatural. The buildings have not changed. The software made them look unknowable. This is not discovery. This is the manufacturing of mystery from documented history, and it works because it looks real. In 1921, the Arizona News published its regular edition, Local Elections, Crop Prices, a School Board Dispute. That is the world theorist claim was post-flood wasteland. A newspaper arguing about crop prices. The mundanity is the evidence. We have not talked about the document yet. The one that makes people's hands shake when they find it. There is a file, CIA RDP 78027710002009-6. You can download it right now from the CIA website. Declassified, completely public. Anyone can read it. Thousands of believers have read it, and what they see stops them cold. A government document, 1957, official seals, classified stamps containing the word Tartar. Not Tartaria, Tartar, but close enough to make your hands shake when you find it. Not just hear what this document says, feel what it means. It is about the Soviet Union systematically rewriting the histories of ethnic minorities under its control. You got surprised. One of those groups was Tartars, real people still existing today living in a region of Russia called Tatarstan. The Soviets charged their textbooks, erased certain narratives, promoted others, entire chapters of living culture overwritten. Not in ancient history, within living memory, the CIA was documenting Soviet propaganda methods. That is the document, not a confession of a lost empire. A record of real people having their real history stolen by a real government. Do you feel the difference? And here is the pattern that breaks this entire theory open. Believers find a document, a map, a reference, they see the word Tartar or Tartaria and they stop reading. The word is enough, the rest becomes confirmation. This is not stupidity, this is how pattern recognition collapses under institutional distrust. When you believe official explanations are always lies, every anomaly becomes evidence. Every coincidence becomes proof, but here is what they walked past, right past without seeing it. Something was erased. Not a global empire, real things, devastating things. The Tatars, the Buryats, the Kalmyks, dozens of people across inner Eurasia, each with language that took centuries to build, traditions that took generations to pass down, histories that were never written or written in places that burned. Many of those languages are now endangered. Some are extinct. In the 17th century, a Dutch scholar named Nicholas Witsen spent decades collecting vocabularies from what Europeans call Tartarian language. His notebooks survive in archives today. Records of cultures changed almost beyond recognition. The conspiracy theory took that grip, that genuine human sense that something is missing from history, and replaced it with fantasy. Now let us talk about who built that fantasy and why. In 2023, the Global Network of Extremism and Technology published a research report. They're finding the Tartaria theory is not just historical misreading, it is a pipeline, belief in hidden knowledge, us versus them. That pattern leads somewhere, not for everyone who believes, but for enough people that researchers flagged it as a documented radicalization pathway. And this is where the theory stops being merely wrong and starts being dangerous. The viral claim spreading this week, the one about Putin declassifying Tartaria, did not just say an empire existed. It described that the empire is built by spiritually advanced Slavic Aryan peoples. Slavic, Aryan. Those two words together are not accidental. Academic researcher Stephanie Halmoffer documented this in her 2024 paper. The Tartaria theory is being actively used to argue for the racial superiority of specific ancestral groups. The Russian Geographical Society issued an official statement calling it an extremist fantasy and a distortion of history for ideological purposes. Not because they are part of a cover-up, because they know exactly what the theory is doing. The conspiracy theory claims history was rewritten to erase a great civilization. The evidence shows history was rewritten to erase actual people. And the conspiracy theory, in chasing its phantom empire, erases those real people all over again. It takes their stolen history and replaces it with someone else invented one. While you have been watching this, that claim about Putin and Tartaria is still spreading right now across every platform. No document, no archive, no verified source of any kind. No declassification exists, and yet the belief grows. That gap between evidence and belief, that is the real mystery here. Here is the impossible choice this investigation leaves me with. Two explanations for why millions of people believe this. Option 1. Genuine institutional distrust. Decades of real government deception created a population that can no longer distinguish documented suppression from invented mythology. The distrust is earned. The target is wrong. Option 2. The theory is being deliberately cultivated. The Slavic Aryan framing, the Putin narrative, the radicalization pipeline. Someone benefits from millions of people believing a superior civilization was erased. Someone benefits from redirecting legitimate historical grief toward racial mythology. I cannot tell you which explanation is correct. I'm not sure both cannot be simultaneously true, and I do not know which possibility is worse. Here is what I keep returning to. The ground beneath your feet is not the ground, but it is not a mud flood debris. It is the compressed weight of real people who actually lived there. The Tatars, the Buryats, the Kalmyks, people with language that died, with stories that burned, with histories worth 10,000 conspiracy theories, and none of the attention. The Tartaria theory does not honor those people, it replaces them. Every share of that viral post is another moment those real histories stay buried. That is the actual mud flood, not the one in the photographs. This one, right now. 3 questions without answer. If institutional distrust is this powerful, what real erasures are we missing right now? If AI can manufacturing historical mystery this convincingly, what else is it manufacturing? Are the maps lying? The documents do not answer these. This video does not answer these. Go to the Library of Congress Map Archive, free, public. Find the 1757 Carte di Tartary. Look at the divided territories. See what 3 centuries of cartography actually shows. Then go to the CIA reading room. Download the 1957 document yourself. Read the whole thing, every page, not just the word. That made people stop reading the whole thing. The real buried world is still there, not in a conspiracy theory, in archive. If those questions matter to you, subscribe and turn on notification, because the ground beneath your feet holds more than you think, and we have barely started digging.